The Institute for Security Studies says the Kenyan government's response to terrorism has actually made the problem worse. New research shows that many Muslim youths are joining terror groups. That's because of the government's extreme methods of tackling terrorism following attacks. The ISS says that the Kenyan government's policy of collective punishment through mass arrests and racial profiling are encouraging radicalization. Well, to discuss this further now, I'm joined by senior researcher at the Institute, Andy Acha-Asamoah. He's live with us from our studios in Pretoria. Good morning, Andy. Thank you very much for your time.
Good morning.
How serious is this situation of youth radicalization that Kenya is faced with today?
It's quite difficult to assign numbers, but if you look at the situation, the general situation of insecurity in the country and the role of young people in that, and if you look at situations in the northeastern areas of Kenya, as well as the tensions along the coast, and even the high-profile attacks that we've seen in recent times in the country, you just get a sense. It gives you a general picture of how bad the situation has become. And on top of that, the general increasing trend of insecurity in the country gives a clear picture of what the situation has been.
Now, Andy, from your research, what is driving these droves of young people into the hands of Al-Shabaab?
There are quite a number of things. If you look at it generally, the general trend of unemployment among young people is a big situation because it creates idle hands, and many of these young people then become vulnerable, you know, to radical teachings and those that promise what they really do not have. Connected to that is the existence of marginalization in the country. And in Kenya, many Kenyans would easily tell you about what they call historical injustices around land and around a number of things in the country, particularly along the coast. There's also a trend that we've seen that the type of responses that the country rolls out has become counterproductive in many ways. If you look at the killing of sheikhs, and if you look at the kind of generalized targeting of particularly the Muslim and Somali community, it becomes counterproductive in the sense that they end up really not cooperating with the state in fighting terror. But also the perception that they are being targeted provides a framework for many young people who want to fight back in the name of injustices. So all of this put together in our view is creating a situation that even though the government is desperate for options, the kind of responses that are being rolled out are becoming counterproductive in many ways.
We've also seen the Kenyan government saying they will not stop supporting or being part of the African Union mission that's fighting Al-Shabaab in Somalia, which is one of the reasons that Al-Shabaab used, for instance, to attack the Westgate shopping center in Nairobi last year.
You're right, and I think that it's become quite complex because Kenya is already there, and it's difficult for anyone to argue that all these targetings will cease if Kenya pulls out. And so it's become more complex, and the fact that, you know, the insecurity on the Somali side has a reflection on what happens in Kenya is also there. So it's become more complex with Kenya's presence in Somalia, and that is another thing altogether.
Thank you very much. That's Andy Acha-Asamoah, senior researcher at the Institute for Security Studies.